If you're just finding us, we are travel bloggers on a journey around the world. We get a lot of questions and frankly some judgment around why we aren't slow traveling, staying a month at a time in each place. People kind of insinuate that we're doing it all wrong. We usually spend about 1 week in each location. We've said before that we do have a reason for traveling fast at this time, and since we've never talked about our motivation, we thought today might help you better understand our decision.
I consider myself very healthy right now. I might have 30 years of good travel ahead. Maybe it's just 2 days. We just don't know, but our plan to travel fast and take in as much of the world as we can while I am healthy has everything to do with the multiple sclerosis diagnosis I received about 25 years ago. While it's not a new diagnosis, it's been hanging over my head for decades. It's changed who I am. Today we're going to tell my story and how it impacts our life, our outlook, and yes, our travel plans. It's not a sad story, but one of hope in making every day count.
And let me say, the ad revenue we get from this video, we will donate it all to the National Multiple Sclerosis Society. It's an organization that funds research, support groups, and other needs MS patients have. Worldwide, someone is diagnosed with this disease every 5 minutes. We've placed a link in the description if you'd like to donate directly.
We're John and Bev, and we are the Retirement Travelers.
When I was in my late 30s, I developed 2 symptoms. My left leg felt like it was asleep for about 8 weeks. I also had an electrical sensation that seemed to shoot down my legs anytime I bent my head over. At first, I saw the local chiropractor, and after a few weeks, he suggested that I go see a neurologist to rule out multiple sclerosis. I saw one who told me that he thought that's what I had. I sought a second opinion, and this time I traveled to the Houston Medical Center where I saw one of the world's leading neurologists. After an MRI, he confirmed the devastating news. He diagnosed me with relapse remitting MS. This basically means it is likely to come and go. It's a diagnosis that most first-time MS patients receive because there's no way to predict how a patient will fare going forward. For most relapse-remitting patients, they have a flare-up that may last for days or weeks and then go away, only to have another return at a later time. These can leave a person with a disability. The alarming part is that patients never know when or to what extent their lives will change when they do have the next flare-up.
If you aren't familiar with the disease, MS is an autoimmune disease that affects the central nervous system. Nerve fibers have a covering called a myelin sheath, much like a plastic covering that surrounds electrical wiring. For some reason, the immune system of people with MS attacks this sheath and destroys the covering, leaving damage to the nerve. Like many autoimmune diseases, the immune system attacks healthy cells just like it does the bad ones like viruses or bacteria. Doctors still don't know what causes MS.
What happened to me was the sleepy feeling that I was having in my leg wasn't that at all. My leg was fine, but the message my brain was getting to and from my leg was muddled. As the leg sent messages to my brain or vice versa, it had to pass through this damaged nerve, and my brain got mixed up signals. My leg was fine, but it felt asleep to me. I had no mobility problems, just sensory.
People with MS are left with what are called lesions. These are tiny scars that can be seen on an MRI in the brain and the spinal cord. Sometimes people have many of these and sometimes just a few. Now in Bev's case, she has a few in both places.
Yeah, after my, that initial time of my first diagnosis, my symptoms have receded and I've done very well, much better than I prepared myself for. My disease has not progressed and my symptoms haven't gotten worse. I still have symptoms, mostly tingling in my legs, my hands, and sometimes on my face. Sometimes my legs feel heavy or they feel like I have to make a more concerted effort to take a step. It's a weird sensation, and for me, I notice it when I walk, especially in cities that don't have even sidewalks or where there are a lot of cobblestones. I worry about falling all the time. My problems become more prominent and pronounced when we're in a hot environment. We try to avoid traveling to high temperature locations, but we've been unlucky a few times. Every day I live with the knowledge that things might get worse for me. I don't know what tomorrow will bring. We've said over and over in our videos that we wanted to travel while we were young and healthy, and this is what we meant. Not a day goes by that I am not thankful that my legs work and I am able to walk everywhere, sometimes 10 miles a day. You won't hear me whining that we are traveling too fast. From my perspective, we can't go far enough or take in enough. Making this big journey is more important than the minor nuisance of packing my few things every week. A week here and a week there is a good pace for us to cover a wide swath of the world while I can. It's funny how we can let the little things get to us when there are people in the world with real problems. Some people can't walk, and I don't take my ability for granted. It's humbling to remember. So living your life to the fullest means something to me. Disease or not, you shouldn't take your good health for granted either.
You know, everyone has something that they must deal with. Our moms, while healthy, certainly had a tough road when they lost our dads. And many people have conditions that are much worse than Bev's. So let me say, we know life can be hard, and while others might not know the pain that you're dealing with, you know. So hang in there and do the best you can. You know, sometimes there's rain and sometimes there's rainbows, but there's always people in the world that care and are willing to help you.
We hope that sharing our story and our example of travel gives some young person hope that life isn't over with this diagnosis. There are many examples of people who have a rough road, but there are many more that have a good life and keep their symptoms under control. I'm just one example of someone who's managed well, but there are many others. That diagnosis felt like a death sentence back in the day. I was very scared. It's been far from what I imagined it would be, and for that I am thankful.
If you're trying to figure out your life while living with this disease, please reach out and join the National Multiple Sclerosis Society or an equivalent in your home country. They have chapters around the country with community members who are there to walk along beside you. They are there to help you with support groups and funding for the needs you might have.
If you feel compelled to donate to this worthy cause, please check out the link in our description. They can use all the help they can get.
The symptoms started around 2011, going through different doctors, a lot of misdiagnosis.
I struggle with tremors, double vision, brain fog, and chronic pain.
I picture myself being in this place and everything being out of reach. The MS is getting worse, and I'm still just stuck in this little body.
Primary progressive MS. It's comparable to a house where things aren't working as they should. It's not something you could sleep off. You wake up, it's still there.
When you hear about a cure, it brings that hope back.
It would mean to my kids that they get their mom back.
And people would be saying, hey, remember MS? You know what that is?
If no one would have to ever experience this, it would just change the world.